Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So a pretty calm day out here in Maryland. A beautiful evening as the sun is going down. And you would never guess, you would never know it, but it was snowing and super windy and just slushy and cruddy out yesterday. So pretty crazy. But here we are, a beautiful Sunday evening here. So I wanted to share a little bit of a story. I debated on doing this video just because I'm not really the one to ever complain necessarily about my dealership experiences. You know, I always meow about markups, but who doesn't? But in this video, I'm going to walk you guys through a very, very frustrating situation that occurred with this particular 2021 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. As you guys know, I purchased many a vehicle over the last few years, and oftentimes they're brand new, and I work with dealerships, you know, purchasing them brand new, of course. And this 4Runner, I bought it back in last May of 2021, and I actually purchased it before actually moving out here to Maryland. And it was a really, really good experience from the start. The dealership was awesome. It was Glen Burnie, Brown's Toyota out in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Super positive experience. They even dropped it off to our house here and parked it in my garage before I even arrived here. So I arrived to our new house with a new vehicle in our garage. So really cool experience. However, there was a clerical error that happened, and it has driven quite the annoying situation. So I purchased it outright, didn't finance this one, and by accident, the title clerk, or you know, the administrative department within Brown's Toyota, they accidentally annotated that it did have a lien. It had a loan on it on the paperwork, right? So totally by accident. How does that happen? I don't know, but it was I'd like to think it was a total accident, of course. An honest mistake. However, that little honest mistake by them annotating PNC Bank on the actual title paperwork when they sent it off to the DMV of my home state, that started this whirlwind headache, right? So they sent it off to my home state, and because COVID is going on, there is already a huge backlog of all, you know, title paperwork, registration, mailed in paperwork. Because I am out of state, it has to be mailed in, instead of me just kind of flying back to the West Coast and actually doing it in person. So it's already backlogged, and especially at the time when I purchased it, it was extremely backlogged because I was in the height of COVID. So back in May of 2021 when I purchased it, and they were at a 12-week wait. So they say, hey, don't call the DMV unless you've waited 12 weeks for a status update because they're backlogged, blah, blah, blah. So understandably so, that is the wait time. So I waited the few months, even a little bit more than that, 4 months, and I ended up getting the plates. The registration and plates came in the mail. So I was like, okay, cool. But normally speaking, they send the title in conjunction with it. That didn't give me a red flag right from the beginning, so I figured I'd wait a week or two after that, just to kind of, maybe their XYZ reason, different department, it was going to take a little bit longer. So I wasn't too worried about it when that happened. And then I ended up calling the dealership or the DMV and saying, hey, which again, that is an event in and of itself. If you try to call a DMV, right, and actually speak to a real human being, good luck with that. So after waiting what seemed like an eternity on hold, finally got a hold of somebody and said, hey, you know, I received my registration and license plates in the mail. You know, I'm out of state, blah, blah, blah. Walked them through it, and they're like, oh yeah, no, it looks like we mailed off the title. It looks like you have a PNC Bank auto loan, so we sent it off to the lien holder. I was like, that is not right. I purchased it outright. So I explained that to him. It doesn't mean anything to him, really. So I explained that to the DMV, and he's like, well, I mean, we sent it off to PNC Bank. They didn't even have a tracking number, which that kind of baffled me. But he did confirm within their system that they mailed off the actual title to PNC out in Ohio, apparently. So I then called the dealership and said, hey, what gives? Why are they sending it to PNC? Then they looked at their paperwork and said, okay, darn it, yeah, it looks like we made a mistake. We annotated that you did have a loan, and we of course know you do not. So that started the long gauntlet of them trying to correct it. You know, so them reaching out to the DMV, a lot of it was me having to do a lot of legwork, a lot of the phone calls, which turned into a huge headache. If you have to call the DMV once, that's enough to really bother you, but you have to call them multiple times in 1 week, couple weeks, it turns into a stressful thing. So I'm still here, nearly, 11 months, 10 months out, and we still do not have the title to this. So what ultimately happened is they reached out to PNC and said, hey, looks like you know, the DMV sent you paperwork for this gentleman, and you know, it turns out, and you guys know that he does not have a loan through you. Can you send the title to us now? Should be an easy fix, right? But of course, as you guessed it, PNC Bank said, we never received a title for this particular vehicle and this gentleman. So now magically, there was no title at all. So they called back and forth a number of phone calls just to get to the bottom of that, to determine that nobody has the title. And again, there was no tracking number coming from the DMV, so huge headache there. And now they had to start the process to try to do a duplicate of original title, which, I don't know, I don't like the idea of it even being a duplicate title when I haven't even had a chance to have the original, and it was totally out of my hands for them to have lost it. So super frustrating. They're working that aspect now. Again, all this just took, you know, weeks upon weeks. Every step of this process took several weeks, as you'd imagine. So super frustrating, and it's not for lack of pestering anybody to try to actually get the ball rolling. It just hasn't come to fruition. So here I am, 11 months later, still waiting for a title for this particular Lunar Rock. It's especially frustrating because if you guys remember, I know a lot of you are quick to comment on it, say, hey, I thought you sold your Lunar Rock. I did. I had a handshake agreement and everything with the Fitzgerald Toyota out here in Maryland. So those are the same people who purchased my Lunar Rock Tundra TRD Pro, if you remember, and they purchased that Tundra for $65,000. This, at the time, had a little bit less miles than the Tundra. I think it had like 2,800 at that time. 2,800 miles right now. It's right around 4,000. But at that time, they had offered, so originally, via text messaging back and forth with the person who makes offers on vehicles, got them up to $63,500 via text. And then when I was there in person selling my Tundra, we had a handshake agreement that he would do $64,000, and that was without anything on it. Stock tires back on. If you remember, I put the stock tires back on for a minute. I ended up buying a separate set, blah, blah, blah. But, so yeah, I had this sold at $64,000, which is, you know, incredible sale price. You know, you guys know MSRP is $54,000, $53,000, right? For this particular one, it was a little bit higher. I think it was like $54,000 and some change, blah, blah, blah. But still, a really good sale price. And again, for it in its stock form. So, pretty frustrating, and I'm positive they will not honor that offer this like months later at this point. You guys remember I sold the Tundra probably 2.5 months ago at this point, about. So here we are. I just wanted to explain that unique situation to you guys. It sucks, but you know, hopefully, you know, we'll get that title here shortly, and well, this will be back on the chopping block when I actually have that title in hand. So anyways, guys, let me know if you had a sticky or a poor situation. Puppy dog feature. Let me know if you've had a poor dealership experience with, you know, a clerical error or anything of that sort, or a headache dealing with the DMV. Well, I guess everyone's had a headache with the DMV, but anything of this sort, I'd be curious to know if you had similar experiences. And let me know what you would have done if you were me. You know, here we are, 10, 11 months later, still without a title. What would you do? Especially if you had intentions of selling it, which is pretty frustrating. So I'd be curious to know your thoughts on it. At any rate, guys, appreciate you watching as always. Till next time.